You're watching Reality Check. Charges that the Modi government is using central agencies to target its rivals exploded with the latest set of raids on an opposition leader. On the day the New York Times front page, the Aam Aadmi Party government's success in improving government schools in Delhi, an initiative spearheaded by Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia, the CBI swooped down on Mr. Sisodia, raiding his home in Delhi, in all raids at 31 locations across 7 states, on grounds that Delhi's policy for licensing liquor shops in Delhi is riddled with corruption. Now, in November last year, the Aam Aadmi Party scrapped the public-private partnership model of liquor shops, making it all private. But by July this year, rocked by allegations of revenue loss, cartelization and questions raised by the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, AAP scrapped the policy and went back to the old one. In its FIR, the CBI has booked Mr. Sisodia and several others, including top AAP strategists, government officials and liquor vendors. AAP has responded to these charges, but first the CBI charges. Number one, liquor companies were actively involved in the framing of the liquor policy. Associates of Sisodia collected commission from liquor companies, and the new liquor policy caused a huge loss to the government. The AAP's response has been that there's no proof to back claims of kickbacks. The LG's change of stance was the reason for the revenue loss, and that the LG's liquor policies only benefited some, not all. AAP supporters held protests against the raids outside Manish Sisodia's house. Chief Minister Kejriwal told the press that the raids were in keeping with the centre's abuse of agencies to selectively target its rivals.
आज मनीष सिसोदिया को दुनिया का सबसे अच्छा शिक्षा मंत्री घोषित किया गया, लेकिन उसके घर सीबीआई पहुंच के रेड मारने के लिए। तो सीबीआई अपना काम कर रही है, उसे घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है। सीबीआई को हम अपना काम करने दें। उनको ऊपर से आदेश हैं कि भाई इनको तंग करना है, ऊपर से आदेश हैं, अड़चने अड़ाओ।
The BJP, on the other hand, sharpened its attack on AAP.
भ्रष्टाचारी जितना मर्जी ईमानदारी का चोला पहन ले, वह भ्रष्टाचारी ही रहता है। और आम आदमी पार्टी का भ्रष्टाचार एक बार नहीं कई बार देखने को सामने आया है। आज मुद्दा है शराब के ठेकों का, शराब के ठेकों में हुए भ्रष्टाचार का, और इस विभाग के मंत्री हैं मनीष सिसोदिया जी।
Now, the question of guilt or innocence outside of political claims is, of course, to be established in courts. It can be no one's case that anyone found guilty should not face the legal consequences. On this show, though, we've tracked the wider question of the lopsided use or misuse of agencies by the Modi government, tracking all the cases registered by the CBI, the ED and the income tax, central agencies basically, against the BJP's rivals, be it politicians, activists, media and so on, to find that indeed there has been a massive jump under the Modi regime of quote-unquote political raids. Big surge. Since 2014, our count finds that there's been action against 627 government critics. This is data up to May this year, so it's not even latest, it's only up to May. That number is likely much bigger. Of 627, close to 450 are the BJP's political rivals, their relatives and aides. This is a 360% jump compared to UPA 2. It includes media, it includes activists, it includes critics of the government, as well as bureaucrats have all been targeted. Strikingly, the action is extremely one-sided. So the action against the BJP rivals, as I said, is over 600 cases filed or people, individuals targeted. Action against the BJP itself, its own allies and so on, is just 48. As I mentioned, our database is updated till May this year, because since then many more opposition leaders have come under the crosshairs of the investigating agencies, including Sonia Gandhi in the National Herald case of July 2022, Rahul Gandhi, again National Herald case, the agency again ED, June of this year, Satyendra Jain of the Aam Aadmi Party, Hawala transactions was the case, again the ED arresting him May this year, Sanjay Raut of the Shiv Sena, arrested for a land scam by the ED, August of this year. Abhishek Banerjee of the TMC, money laundering charges brought against him by the ED this year. Partha Chatterjee of the TMC, money laundering charges brought against him by the ED. Farooq Abdullah, National Conference, again ED, money laundering charges. Overall, we've just tried to put up pictures of all the opposition leaders and critics and dissenters targeted by agencies during the regime of the Modi government. As I said, the 600 plus number, and that just gives you an idea of the scale and sweep of those who've been targeted. So many that we could barely cram them into one particular graphic. And of course, many of those faces there already we mentioned, and you recognize senior leaders from the Congress, the NCP, Trinamool Congress, Aam Aadmi Party, National Conference, etc., 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 as well as we said, others, dissenters, critics, journalists, etc., etc. All right, joining us tonight on the debate, we have with us Jasmine Shah, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party, is with us. Supriya Sreenate of the Congress is with us. But let me start with Vijay Jolly, leader of the BJP from Delhi. Thank you so much, Jolly ji, for joining us. Now, as I mentioned, to get into the question of who's guilty or who's innocent with a political panel becomes somewhat infructuous. You will say AAP is guilty, they'll say they're innocent. This is, a kind of self-certification. It's ultimately the courts, as you know, that will decide. But on the wider point, Jolly ji, where we do have evidence, we have information about this selective targeting. No one is saying that the corrupt shouldn't be targeted. But just look at those numbers, Jolly ji. Almost 600 plus targets of the BJP's rivals. Every party, every leader across the country, journalists, you name it. And from the other side, from the own BJP side or your allies, virtually nobody, Jolly Saab.
You see, when you start off with accusing the BJP of targeting its political opponents, you are unfair and you are biased against the constitutional agencies working in the country, and I would salute the CBI and its officers. I would salute the ED and its officers. I would salute the income tax officers. You have to listen to me. I have listened to you very carefully, Mr. Jain.
Right, but I'm saying you're misinterpreting what I was saying.
If you will say what you want to say, I want to say what I wish to.
Okay.
And I see.
Sure, Jolly Saab.
There is no hand of the central government or the BJP in the raids on Deputy Chief Minister, Mr. Manish Sisodia. Is it not on record that in April 2021, concessions were granted to the liquor mafia to the tune of 144.36 crores.
Jolly Saab.
And for that, the commission was raised from 2.5% to 12.5%.
Jolly Saab, this is my point. I was trying to humbly submit to you that I wasn't getting into the nitty-gritties of the case because that is left to the courts. Right? Yes. BJP cannot say. I am on the point. Jolly Saab, I am on the point.
Prosecuting Sonia Gandhi or Rajiv Gandhi in that case which was registered during the UPA regime, you are doing a great disservice.
No, Jolly Saab, you're misunderstanding my point.
If Abhishek Banerjee is caught with stacks of money in Calcutta,
Jolly Saab, my point is different.
Your point is nothing. Your point is targeting the BJP.
I am saying, Jolly Saab, how can... not targeting the BJP. I am saying, look at this figure. 627 on one side. And only 80, is it the case, the BJP's case, that the only guilty people in this country are the BJP's rivals? That's the point I'm making.
In the country of going to the court of law and raising these pertinent issues about which the NDTV debates today, it is not 3 versus 1, it is 4 versus 1. You have to understand, my government, my Prime Minister, do not use the constitutional agencies. They are constitutional agencies on which the government of the day, whether it is in the center or it was the previous government, they used to rely on their fair investigation. So in today's raid at Manish Sisodia's place, it was done after the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Mr. V.K.
Supriya
recommended a CBI inquiry on 22nd July.
Jasmine Shah, Supriya Sreenate. Let me just come to each of you first. So, Jasmine, again, as I said, we're not, if we get into the nitty gritties, there's no end to it. And who are we to sit and judge who's guilty? But the point being that when you have, the only point here in this particular case is that there have been many questions about this excise policy right from the beginning. Your own government has had to fold it and bring in a new one, implying that all is not well. So, in that context, to say that this is a politically motivated set of raids, is that valid?
Vasu, first, let me express my solidarity with the fact that you were trying to reason the gentleman from BJP about how the opposition is being targeted using numbers, and there was absolutely no explanation from BJP because you cannot reason out. The numbers speak for themselves. 95% of raids have been on opposition leaders, and a trend that began in the Congress era of using CBI and ED against opposition has just been now being used at a wholesale level. That is the reality of our country.
Right.
Coming to Delhi's excise policy, let us be very clear, Vasu. When this policy came out, it had happened after complete public scrutiny. The Lieutenant Governor of Delhi has approved it, after which it became official. And it was in the process of implementation of the policy when BJP leaders, along with Delhi police and all other agencies, started threatening the officials of excise department that we will not allow you to auction for shops. Mind you, Vasu, that out of 850 shops that were supposed to be open, only 250 shops finally were left. And as a result, Delhi was facing at a Gujarat-like prohibition. We know what prohibition has done in Gujarat. Hundreds of people are dying every day. So only as a temporary measure, the policy,
so you're saying,
in principle, was completely fair and progressive and transparent, had to be rolled back to prevent a prohibition-like scenario in Delhi.
Okay, I'm sure Mr. Jolly will want to respond. I'll come back to him. But Supriya, I just wanted to understand from the Congress its position on this, because the opposition does tend to get divided. We've seen even today, some parties have come out in support of Aam Aadmi Party saying that this is harassment, etc., like the DMK and so on. But others are saying, no, good that this is being probed. They've been saying all along that there's something dubious going on with the Aam Aadmi Party policies. What's your take?
So I'm going to answer that question as frankly and as openly as I can. I think that question, the answer is based on two legs. The first leg is that it is absolutely ridiculous for anybody to state on this show or any other show that our government does not use agencies. I mean, आपका 4 साल का बच्चा भी अगर होगा तो वो भी हंसेगा जॉली साहब जो बात आपने बोल दी. Everybody knows your government. Please don't speak in between, sir. I did not speak. आपके बीच में नहीं.
Okay, one at a time. Right. Yeah.
चलो 4 साल का पोता होगा, जो भी होगा वो भी हंसेगा ये बात सुनकर. That's the first thing. You consistently use agencies to shut up critics, to silence opposition, to intimidate your own people. That's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make, and this is the larger point that I want to make, what was AAP's priorities? You were forming a liquor policy in the middle of one of the worst pandemics. You have reduced the drinking age from 25 to 21, said you can keep drinking till 3 a.m. in open spaces. Is this your way to profiteer? That's the first point I would want to make. The second point
but
I want to make
that's not necessarily corruption though.
No, Sreenivasan Jain, please give me a second, Vasu. I am saying this for a reason, because Mr. Kejriwal's governance model or his idea of politics was very different to begin with, and it is very different today. He was somebody who wanted to shut in Sarkari Gadi, Neeli Batti, Ghar and all that. He moves around with the Z plus security, so do a whole host of AAP leaders.
Okay,
he is a CM without a portfolio today. He used to ask for Lokpal. Today corruption.
Supriya, but that's not on the point of the.
I'd like to respond to some of these.
That's not on the raids though.
I would like to respond.
The reason why I'm making this point, when the rest of the opposition is hurled at, when the rest of the opposition is actually intimidated by this government through its agencies, the AAP keeps conspicuously silent. You hobnob with the BJP. You act like the B team of the BJP. Today, when it's happening to you, you are crying foul. जब हमें इंडिया के कर रही थी, 17 पार्टीज ने साइन किया था, लेकिन आपने उस पर साइन नहीं किया था. क्यों नहीं किया था? आप बड़े सगे बन रहे थे बीजेपी के.
I'll come back to. I know Jasmine wants to respond, and of course, Jasmine, I'll give you a chance. But let me come back to Jolly Saab and try to. One second, Supriya. I have to rotate the strike. I'll come back to you.
I'm only asking on Mr. Jolly's wall. How is it so neon and how is their painting? It is very interesting. I really must congratulate him. He's the most colorful person on Indian television.
That's
because,
true. Jolly Saab.
the kind of things that he says makes me laugh, but his background is even more laughable. Anyways, go ahead.
Jolly Saab, just to come back to my broader point, because as I said, tu me on who's guilty, who's corrupt will take us nowhere. But the wider point is, Jolly Saab, as you were saying that, agencies are doing their job, etc. Again, I'm coming back to the numbers. Of course, you should go after corruption, but you only go after one side and not the other. That BJP and its allies are doodh ka dhula and the other, that's the issue. And when you look at the conviction rate for the enforcement directorate, this is data given by our own government in the Rajya Sabha in July this year. Total 5,400 cases have been registered under PMLA, the Money Laundering Act, by the ED since its inception. Total convictions, Jolly Saab, 23. Conviction rate of less than 0.5%. That is abysmal. Surely this indicates to you that there is some misuse.
I don't agree with you. First of all, I would wish to
But the
respond
data.
to what, yes, I will first respond to what respected Congress spokesperson Supriya ji said, and then I will come to your point. Probably the Congress party is still in the daydreaming of 1975, when their own Congress Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ji had imposed emergency, suspended fundamental rights, and had put all the opposition leaders behind bar. In 2022, in 2014, 2019, nothing of that sort happened except mudslinging on the BJP-led Mr. Prime Minister Modi government.
Now coming to the point. Yes.
Now I will come to the point. If today the judiciary would not have been independent, if the law enforcing authorities like CBI, ED or income tax was not doing its job,
independent,
then you could have complained, because
Jolly Saab,
Jolly
Saab, if they were independent, one second, Supriya, hold on.
Please don't interfere.
No, Supriya, then you are breaking your own
Otherwise,
rule.
I will not allow this debate to continue.
Okay, Jolly
If
Saab.
these independent
Jolly Saab, if they were
bodies
independent,
are operating in the
why are
country,
they not?
where is
Why
the
don't they
problem?
probe the
You go to
BJP?
the court of law. You
No,
go
I'm
to
saying independence is when you are able to probe even the government and the opposition equally. Isn't that independence?
Tell you,
Okay.
whether it is the BJP, whether it is the Congress, whether it is the Aam Aadmi Party, no one is above the law. We are open to
the
any
numbers don't show that.
investigative
Okay.
agency. If
Jasmine-
there are no
Jasmine
complaints,
Shah, okay.
If there are no complaints, then it is not the fallacy or the shortfall of the BJP leaders or the BJP government. It is the failure.
Jolly
I would
Saab,
rather
एक second.
say,
I don't want to lower mics, but you have to allow me to intervene.
Any issues?
Okay, we'll have to. Jolly Saab.
You intervene and Sreenivasan, when I'm
Jolly Saab, you can't. Jolly Saab, you have to allow interjections.
I'm accusing you whenever I'm putting forward my viewpoint. You are pointing out. You are trying to.
Not at all.
Please give me a fair chance.
No, I gave you more than a fair chance, Jolly Saab. Okay, Jasmine Shah, the point is that, as Supriya was saying, that when you cry wolf, when you say that this is, victimization and all of that, and harassment, but you're not part of opposition solidarity on this. Do you stand up every time an opposition leader's anywhere is raided? You don't. And that's why some people in the opposition are not backing you today.
That's not true. And I think Congress is the last one to preach by their own reactions today. And I'll call out the hypocrisy of Supriya Srinath on this show. She talked about how the drinking age has been brought down from 25 to 21 and how that is very bad. She should answer why Rajasthan has a drinking age of 18 years. It is your state. You've been ruling it for such a long time. So this hypocrisy doesn't help anyone. And coming to
on
this
the quick point of the thing though.
Also, I have to respond. You're not allowing me to talk. You allowed Mr. Jolly a long time. I have to respond on the fact that CBI and ED, I'll give you a clearest example of how CBI and ED are nothing but political tools in the hand of BJP. If they were really serious about illicit liquor and liquor issues, then they should be raiding Gujarat, where just a few weeks back, 42 people were dead. Every year, hundreds of people are dying. Close to 10,000 crores is the estimated black or liquor mafia that is operating in Gujarat. You know how many drugs have been found in the state of Gujarat? Have you ever heard CBI and ED raiding Gujarat? Have you heard in the Bundelkhand there was an expressway that caved in a few days after PM Modi inaugurated it? No investigation, no kind of
Okay.
follow-up happening on that.
All
But
right.
because today Arvind Kejriwal stands as the opposition to Mr. Modi, and mind you, that is the only reason today by sending CBI.
Yeah,
BJP
this
has
is actually
proven
a subject.
2024
Okay,
is
we're
going
out
to
of
be
time.
Nothing but Modi versus Kejriwal. That is the
We're
only
out of
reason
time.
why
Mind
AAP
believe
is being
Modi
targeted.
versus Kejriwal.
Where,
Only
where,
their mind
this is,
believes so. The country
Supriya,
has
I'm going to call you and Jolly Saab and all of you back on that debate, because this is now the AAP's new gambit, that this is, they're saying
No, but
it's
I
now
think
Modi
Jolly
versus
Saab is living in
Kejriwal,
a parallel universe.
and
I
nobody
believe
else is
Jolly
now.
Saab is existing in a parallel universe. Where
Okay.
he's saying there is no bias. कोई सब कुछ निष्पक्ष है. कौन से देश की बात कर रहे हैं
Okay,
आप?
ठीक है. All
कौन
right,
सी सरकार की बात कर रहे हैं?
we'll have to leave it there. We'll get all of you back. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. But don't go away, because I also spoke earlier to senior Aam Aadmi Party leader Sanjay Singh, Rajya Sabha MP, about the raids, where I asked him that you say that it's vendetta, but the charges that the CBI has brought appear serious. BJP, CBI's allegations, they say, are serious, that, you know, AAP has received commissions from liquor mafia, there was a waiver of a license, 144 crore license fee, etc., etc. This has caused a huge loss to the exchequer. Sanjay Singh ji.
नहीं, मैं बताऊंगा आपको इन सारे मुद्दों पर भी, और लेकिन मैं शुरुआत करता हूं कि ये आज हालत क्यों है, क्यों ऐसा किया जा रहा है बार बार सीबीआई, ईडी, केजरीवाल जी की सरकार के खिलाफ। इसके पीछे का कारण यह है कि दिल्ली में 3 बार बीजेपी हारी, पंजाब हम प्रचंड बहुमत से जीते, और अब गुजरात और हिमाचल में चुनाव लड़ रहे हैं। इसके पीछे का कारण यह है कि अब शिक्षा और स्वास्थ्य का जो मॉडल है उसकी चर्चा पूरे देश में ही हो रही है, और देश ही नहीं, दुनिया के अलग अलग देशों में इसकी चर्चा हो रही है। न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स ने फ्रंट पेज पे मनीष सिसोदिया की फोटो छापी और दिल्ली की शिक्षा की बात की। केजरीवाल को रोकने के लिए, अरविंद केजरीवाल के मॉडल को रोकने के लिए, उनके एजुकेशन और हेल्थ के मॉडल को रोकने के लिए हताशा में एक की गई कार्रवाई है। मैं इसको इस रूप में देखता हूं। अब आप जिस लिकर पॉलिसी की बात कर रहे हैं, लाइसेंस फी माफ करने की बात कर रहे हैं, ये एमसीडी के और कई राज्यों के आंकड़े हमारे पास हैं। तीनों एमसीडी ने मिलाकर एडवर्टीजमेंट को लेकर 100 करोड़ माफ किया, टोल को लेके 44 करोड़ माफ किया एमसीडी ने। इसी तरीके से हरियाणा गवर्नमेंट का वेबर का डिसीजन है।
आप ये बीजेपी
इसी
के
तरीके से
कर रहे हैं, मतलब जो
कई
हमारे
और
दर्शक
कंट्रीज का
ये बात नहीं जानते हैं,
कोविड के टाइम में
एमसीडी अंडर द बीजेपी, यही आपका कहने का मकसद है जी?
अंडर द बीजेपी कोविड के समय में बहुत सारी चीजों पर अलग अलग तरह की छूट दी गई, तो उसको अकेले आम आदमी पार्टी के लिए मुद्दा बना के और ये कहना कि इसमें करप्शन हो गया, भ्रष्टाचार हो गया, ये इस तरह की
ये जो
बेबुनियाद
आरोप
बात
है, आम आदमी पार्टी खड़ी हुई थी एंटी करप्शन प्लैंक पर, आपका तो पूरा मूवमेंट था इंडिया अगेंस्ट करप्शन, उसी पर आप एक तरह से खड़े हुए और आपका ढांचा उसी बेसिस पे है। तो आप क्या ये कह रहे हैं, क्योंकि जैसे पंजाब में भी आपने खुद कहा है कि अगर वहां करप्शन है उसको आपने कुछ एक्शन भी लिया, कि आप, क्योंकि सरकार कहती है कि भाई अगर कोई सस्पेशन है, करप्शन है, हमें तो इन्वेस्टिगेट करना है, तो आप कह रहे हैं कि एक तरफा, आर यू सेइंग दैट बिकॉज are you questioning the fact that you are being raided at all, or are you saying that look, it's okay, you can raid us, you can probe us, but आप उसको एक तरफा नहीं कर सकते? Is that the argument?
भाई मैं दो चीजें कह रहा हूं। मैं कह रहा हूं आप एक तो अपने करीबी लोगों के खिलाफ कोई जांच नहीं करते, इसका प्रमाण सहित मैं कह रहा हूं 10,000 करोड़ रुपए का कालाबाजारी का और जहरीली शराब, नकली शराब का काम हर साल गुजरात में होता है। अभी 100 लोग मर गए गुजरात में जहरीली शराब से। कोई ईडी, सीबीआई, किसी की कार्रवाई आपने देखी किसी बीजेपी नेता के खिलाफ?
मैं पॉइंट समझ गया।
दूसरी बात, आपने हमारे खिलाफ जितनी भी जांचें खिलाई
जी,
जितनी भी जांचें कराई आज तक, आपने कुछ निकला? आज तक 400 फाइलों की जांच की सुंगलू कमेटी ने, कुछ निकला उसमें? तो आप हैरेसमेंट करने के लिए, और हर बार आप एक ही बात कहते हैं, अरे भाई कुछ किया नहीं तो जांच करा लो। ये क्या मतलब हुआ? 3 FIR मोदी जी पे करा दो और उनसे कह दो रोज प्रधानमंत्री का काम छोड़ के थाने थाने घूमे। ये कोई तर्क है?
नहीं, तो आपका कहने का मतलब ये है,
फर्जी सी जांच शुरू कर देते हैं, फिर कहते हैं साहब कोई बात नहीं, अब आप तो जांच हो जाने दीजिए।
नहीं तो
ठीक है,
मेरा
करिए
आपका
जांच
कहने का
आप।
मतलब यह है
स्वागत है
क्योंकि
आपका।
क्या
बदल जाता है।
आम आदमी पार्टी पूरी तरह से मनीष सिसोदिया के पीछे खड़ी है? बिकॉज एक आर्गुमेंट ये भी हो सकता है, बाकी केसों में भी हुआ, कि जब किसी मंत्री सीनियर नेता पे इतने आरोप लगाए जाते हैं करप्शन वगैरह के, तो क्या पार्टियों को उनका साथ देना चाहिए?
100% अगर किसी एक ईमानदार अच्छे शिक्षा मंत्री को, जिसको पूरी दुनिया पसंद कर रही है, पूरा देश पसंद कर रहा है, जिसके शिक्षा मॉडल को देखने के लिए अमेरिका के राष्ट्रपति की पत्नी आती है हिंदुस्तान, तो कहती है केजरीवाल और मनीष सिसोदिया का शिक्षा मॉडल देखना है, पूरी पार्टी मनीष सिसोदिया के साथ खड़ी है।
थैंक यू वेरी मच इंडीड संजय जी, आपने बात की हमारे साथ। थैंक्स वेरी मच।